This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's the Krypton Report!
Shazam!
Welcome to the special episode of the Krypton Report. We've been invaded by Shazam, by the big red cheese himself. And I can't do it alone. No. I cannot do it alone so much that not only is the Superman Red here with me, but
yes, I am.
The great Superman of Earth 2 is with us as well. And his name is Bryan. So let's welcome Mr. Bryan Peters.
I like that little accent there. That's nice.
Welcome, Bryan.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. And if all goes well, maybe we'll have you some more because I got some cool ideas down the line.
So that works for me. I have the time.
With all of our guests, we're going to ask you some simple Superman-based questions because you know this is a Superman show. Favorite Superman movie? It can be any movie, animated or theatrically released.
Superman versus Brainiac.
Ooh, that's
Superman versus Brainiac. Oh, man.
That's a tough one.
James, why don't you go first, buddy?
No, this is all about you, Bryan. James and I have done this before. This is all about Bryan.
Oh, okay. Hey, I like that. I don't get that attention elsewhere. Superman 2 holds a special place in my heart. That will always be probably my favorite Superman movie. I grew up without the Donner cut, so I'm used to the Eiffel Tower scene and him throwing his Superman ass, because that's the greatest power that he could ever have. His teleportation powers. That movie just holds a special place in my heart because when I was 4 years old, that is the first Superman movie I ever saw, and that is what started my love of comic books and heroes. So it has to be Superman 2.
Awesome. Totally respectable. Totally makes sense, too. I mean, it's a great film, either cut. I mean, and it's so weird because as a child for the longest time, it was one of those where I didn't know which one was Superman and which one was Superman 2. Because I just had them both recorded on a VHS. And I think they were just recorded together or something. And you watched them just as all the time in the background. So you didn't.
I'm pretty sure there was a time where I felt the same way that it was one whole movie. So
you just can't.
Well, right. Well, as an adult now, I watch them all as one big setting, as one big show. I have to.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
I mean, come on. And I don't think you can. I don't think it's gonna get. I don't think you can get better than Tara Stamp as General Zod. I mean,
I put a question mark with that, but for what you've seen, for what you have witnessed, I will say okay.
Who? Refresh my memory here. Who played Zod in Smallville?
Callum Blue.
That's who it was.
He did a good job, but he was not really General Zod. He kind of he was young. He was like Lieutenant Zod.
Yeah, he was Zod just before the fall.
You're right. That is true. Tara Stamp saying "kneel before Zod,"
and you believe
you will bow down before me, Jor-El. It's fantastic. I mean, come on, man.
I mean that it's believable. You know what I'm saying? But okay, all right, moving on. Now, not who do you think is the best Superman? Which live action portrayal touched you, or is has a special place for you? Mine real quick. Mine was Tom Welling as Smallville because I just put a really big impact in a time of my life when I needed it. So, You know, so it doesn't have to, like, everyone wants to be like, oh, Chris Reeve, but it doesn't have to be, you know, so.
Right. Yeah. My first one was Dean Cain and Lois and Clark. I watched that growing up, and then Smallville came along, same time, same age as Tyler, and, you know, followed that the whole way.
I would have to say, Christopher Reeve, you know, definitely one of the best, but Dean Cain, you know, my mom worked a lot as a kid, and some of the only time I got to see her was Sundays, and we would watch Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman every Sunday night together.
So me and my mom did too.
It's a little bit more special.
It was great because it very much was a family show, you know. So it was it was great because that's, like, you know, that's one of mine. Like, we get home from church or whatever on Sunday nights, and it was one of the shows that we watched all of us together. So.
And Terry Hatcher wasn't too bad looking, so, you know, that was cool too.
So, let me ask you this: which Superman costume is your favorite?
Ooh. Ooh. No, I've never been asked that before. Wow. Are we talking live action? Are we talking comics?
Like if you were going to get one to wear around, like, which one's your favorite?
Ooh. I think I would probably go with a Smallville, you know, Tom Welling black Superman black T-shirt with the silver logo and that long trench coat. I think it looks pretty sweet there. I mean, it was how brief it was. I'd even sell for the red jackets. I just don't think I could pull off spandex. I don't think I could.
Tom Welling's Matrix look.
Yeah. It's a little late there, Tom.
I don't know. But if we're talking a traditional Superman costume, I guess I would have to go with probably Dean Cain's.
Okay, I can see that.
Because Christopher Reeves just looked very, very tight, and I think that Dean Cain's Superman ass, because it was bigger, would cover up some of my fat. So I think that maybe I could pull that off.
See, my thing is with Chris's costume, it has a very short cape. And, you know, with Dean's, he did have the bigger S. But so, all right. Well, hey, that's some, you know, background into your Superman love. And there's probably going to be more questions that'll come up as we discuss things about Bryan and his love for Superman. Because, you know, we here on the podcast, we will make sure we get people who enjoy the character as much as we do. So here is my next thing. As we get into this, have either of you read Shazam Origins, is what it's been dubbed, but the New 52 Shazam reboot book? No.
I have. Now, I actually haven't read the collected book.
Uh-huh.
It was excuse me. It was $4.99 on the DC Comics app. So I actually just purchased it, but I read it as the backup stories to Justice League and the New 52,
which I thought was an interesting way of presenting it. That, you know, in the original run, Justice League, Shazam was like a couple of pages in the back of every issue. They haven't done backups like that in a long time. And I read it then I read it in the trade, and I bought it on trade because I found it at Walmart. I like to have physical copies of comics. I bought a while back. I bought it for like $4.99 digitally, but I found it for $9.99 at Walmart, collected with the Zachary Levi cover, and it had a poster in it. So I bought that because I wanted to buy the physical copy. And I bring
I got to get the physical.
I bring it up, Brian. Have you ever read it?
Yeah. I mean, now when that was released in 2011 with the New 52, I was just getting married, so that's kind of when I stopped reading comics on a regular basis. But I read that Justice League couple issues, and I liked how at the end that they introduced Shazam and like went issue by issue introducing him. But
And I want to almost
same time,
say it was Justice League 20 or 21, maybe.
I think you're right.
It actually was a Shazam issue. And it had like
No, I never read that.
It was the culmination of that arc. It's when he fought Black Adam. I want to say because it was on the cover, and I want to say because I think I bought that one in Red Bank. I don't know.
Maybe I did read that. Well, what I can tell you is I read the original first issue back when Justice League was coming out. But before the movie came out, I went and read the New 52 story all over again, where he fought Black Adam in it,
Yep.
and Black Adam had the sins, and Savina was kind of off in the corner, like, I'm here, but I released Black Adam, so I'm just going to stay over here because and Wither and maybe Mr. Mind will come in and talk to me later or something. Sorry, spoiler. But I loved it. I enjoyed it. I wanted more. As I read it before the movie, I was like, I want more. And I was excited to see, what they would pull from this and put into the movie.
Good. 'Cause that's really where I'm glad we've all read it and are at least familiar with it at the point, because this movie is heavily reliant on that source material, which is nothing wrong with that, because this is kind of getting a little bit ahead.
Amazing.
Like this is a perfect example of taking a story and translating it to screen, but changing it to create some others. Much like had they taken that first New 52 volume of Suicide Squad and done that story for the film, that would have been a whole better film and a different story. But this is a perfect example of translating a solid story without going crazy with it. Because the other thing is, are either of you reading the current Shazam that just came out?
Yes, I am.
Is it now, guys? Is it the one where the cover's like Shazam sitting in a school desk?
Yes.
Is that the one we were talking about?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
like the first issue.
Not yet.
All right. If you want, Brian, I can let you borrow. I got all 5. Is it 5 issues we're at or 4? I can't
There's
remember.
only 4 out right now.
Okay.
I'm waiting for 5. It'll probably be out later this month.
No, because it got pushed back.
Sweet.
Thanks, Jeff Johns.
Did it?
Yep. Because
Oh man.
honestly, Brian, like the cool thing about it is there's a couple things that happen with Shazam during the New 52 with the Trinity War. But this current book is really a continuation of that story, because Shazam just disappeared and hasn't been seen in Rebirth at all. So like you could
Exactly, and that's what
you could literally
annoyed me
read
so much.
that Shazam origins and then go into this new book without having to have anything else, because it's a continuation of that story. So that's what's really got me thrilled about it, is it's just like jumping back in. So anyone who's listening, I definitely suggest picking up Shazam, the current run. We're only 4 issues in, so not even enough for a trade.
I will tell you right now,
race.
you will not be disappointed whatsoever.
So, all right. So, with that said, now we're going to get into Shazam, the film. I do want to say a couple things. There's a great article on comicbookresources.com about the whole name, with him being Captain Marvel and Shazam, and how the copyrights work and the legality of why they lost the ability to name the book Captain Marvel, but it was called Shazam and the Adventures with Captain, like why that whole thing happened. And then later in the New 52, they decided to just kind of rebrand the character just as Shazam and get rid of the Captain Marvel part, because it was getting too complicated and confusing for new readers. So I recommend checking that up on CBR, Comic Book Resources' website. So with that, we're going to jump into the film. Now, with the film, just real quick, like it, love it, hate it. Brian, go.
I absolutely loved this movie.
James,
Absolutely loved it. I cannot say enough.
James, go.
I loved it. Hilarious, full of heart, well acted, well shot. Very a lot of quality for moderate superhero budget.
All right, and Tyler, go. I loved it. Yeah, it is I want to say it was a test because you had like BVS, I think, whose budget was like $300 million almost, and this one was in the 85-90 million range,
Something like that.
Which shows that you can do a lot with a lower budget. Not every one of these superhero comic book films, like a movie like. A large comic book movie, like, something that was horribly done, I could see having a budget like $200-300 million, okay? When it's this broad, huge opus of a film, like it should have been. But something like Shazam, a moderate budget's great because, that just shows that they can do these on a lower budget, that we can continue to get more and continue with characters like Shazam, who is a great character. I mean, when you're looking at the scope of who should get a movie, and you have a character like Shazam, where it's a wish fulfillment character for a child to basically say a magic word and get to be everything you wanted. Say a word and turn into Superman. Basically, it's perfect because that gives you a whole new angle in the audience to get into.
When you talk about the budget and the effects, everything looked great, and I don't know, perhaps it was spread out because of all the characters and the 7 deadly sins and Savannah and stuff, but you can see where it's smaller in that respect.
It kind of reminds me
but it works perfect for an origin story as well, because there's a lot more room to grow. And if they tack on another 20-30 million onto that, say with Black Adam in the sequel or something, it can get pretty big. I mean, it's pretty much, Superman versus Zod fight again with magic.
I will say, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Minus the world engine.
I will say that
the world engine.
This movie, I completely forgot what I was about to say. Dang it. Oh well, it'll come back to me.
You enjoyed the movie.
I always do that to Tyler.
I do it too.
You were talking, and I was just gonna say, I lost it. But no, the budget was smaller. And they did a lot. They did a lot with it. Sometimes being limited breeds more creativity. We got to have a lot of fun with the characters before we actually had, the huge battles. And so let's get into the movie. I'm going to start out. The movie starts with Savannah and kind of his story, and I like that they chose to start there and show, that he was one that was basically, could be the wizard champion. Yeah, hold on, Solomon. You want to say that? Here, say. Tell it.
The monsters are scary.
Yeah, you hear that, James? The monsters are scary.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do want to say that.
I was scared.
I will say
I was watching it with you, and I was terrified.
Yeah,
they were creepy.
Brian was like right across the seats with us when we watched it. Him and his wife were with us. I will say that I was a little taken back by how kind of creepy, scary the sins were. And that's because I kind of went in with more of an idea of this is kind of more of the family movie. This is the superhero that's open for children. This is kind of like and they were not in any of the marketing, and I almost feel like that's kind of misleading because people will bring their kids and then they get these sins that not only are they kind of creepy and like scary.
That's a good point.
But they're shot scary. And I know Sandberg's a horror
They're
director.
legitimate monsters.
I know David Sandberg's a horror director, okay? It's just kind of like, I know that Todd Phillips is a comedy director and he's doing Joker. A director can stretch their wings and everything. So I wasn't, I'm not off. James Wan's a horror director and he gave us Aquaman, and I think it has the right balance with The Trench. But I was a little, like I said, taken aback by how creepy and the way they did the scenes. Now, I will admit, we're kind of jumping ahead here, that I missed part of the boardroom, most of the boardroom scene, because Solomon had to use the bathroom. And
that's right.
And I'm glad I did. And I haven't got to see it a second time yet.
I was just going to bring that up.
Brian and I are going to try to go sometime this week, but things happen, life. So I haven't got to see it a second time yet. But, I've heard other people talk about it, and I'm just like, I'm glad I missed it, because that really would have been, I think, a little too much for Solomon. When we watch it at home, I can kind of control that. But in the theater, it was a little surprising. But he loved it. He's going around yelling Shazam. He just told me before that he wants to get a Shazam costume.
I think when we walked out the movie, I even went to you because you were wearing your Shazam shirt and Solo was wearing his Shazam shirt, and I was like, this Halloween, if you guys are not Billy Batson's Shazam, we are totally missing out on an amazing opportunity here.
Hold on, guys. Hold on, real quick. Someone wants to say something.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, Solo.
For my anniversary, it's going to be Leonardo.
Oh, yeah?
Halloween. Yeah, he wants to be Leonardo for Halloween or Shazam. So we got a few.
Okay.
Can he be Shazam dressed as Leonardo?
See, Brian, now you're thinking like me.
See,
but I know
that's what I'm here for, buddy.
I know
two.
I know we got ahead of ourselves, but I just want to kind of just throw that out here that I thought the sins were a little creepy, and it don't bother me, but going in the mindset of children, like, okay, like they deserve a good superhero movie. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Well, I've seen it twice. First time, thanks to Tyler. Thank you. Me and my son went and saw the early screening, and we really enjoyed it. He said that the monsters were scary, but they didn't last any longer than that.
Yeah.
Well, my kids are a little bit older. My kids are 9 and 10. So, and then opening night, me and my daughter had a daddy-daughter date and went out and had dinner and a movie, and she wanted to go see Shazam. So I've seen Shazam twice, and she said the same thing. The monsters creeped her out, the boardroom scene. But no, other than that, that's as far as that went as well. So, I mean, they're legitimate monsters, and like they're scary. They really are. But for kids a little bit older, it's not going to be an issue. But
right.
definitely,
yeah. I mean,
6 and below probably be more of a nightmare.
And
scenario,
and with the monsters, the way they came out, and then the revelation at the end with the way the monsters are dealt with. Solomon was along the ride. Like he kind of went with it. Like, oh, look at him now, and that was it. Like afterwards, like there was no discussion about it, which for me is great because I was like, crap, because he's gonna be scared, and then I'm the one gonna get blamed for wanting to come to this. And, but okay, so
no, you could put the blame on me. I kind of was like, hey man, we have early screening, man, let's do it. You can blame me. I'll take the blame. You got to be a good dad. I'll be the villain.
So back to David Sandberg. Okay, so did any of you catch the hidden Easter egg image that was a reference to Sandberg's previous film?
He did Annabelle, right? And he did
Annabelle Creation
and Lights Out.
Yep. And
Well, I've only seen Annabelle,
so in the scene where Billy's in like the pawn shop and he tricks the cops, when the cops walk in, to the left side in the bottom corner is the Annabelle doll.
See, you know what? You told me about that the first time, and I forgot to look for it the second time when I went in.
And if I remember right, the Annabelle doll is in Aquaman too, because
yes, I actually just bought that earlier this week, and me and the kids have watched it, and I showed them, and they love catching it every time it comes up now.
So I thought that was kind of a quick nod. I've listened to a couple other podcasts, and they pointed out a couple other things that I missed. Like I said, I only watched it once, that are kind of nods to other DC things, and I'm going to go ahead and share this. The scene where Billy is with his guidance counselor, social worker, there's some cookies or candy in front of smiley faces. And if you look, there's one smiley face that is the Watchman symbol. So it's the yellow smiley face with the red.
I thought I saw something yesterday when I watched it again. I was like, wait, did I see what I thought I saw?
I heard about that.
And then the other one was, and I caught this, and I forgot to mention it because I told it to Junia, that when Shazam's training, he's in an abandoned Ace Chemical warehouse.
Oh, yes.
So I thought that those were just things. And then the one for me that I thought I got a kick out of was the person working with Savannah who touches the door was actually David Sandberg's wife. So his wife had a cameo, and I thought that was cool. Okay, so we keep trying to start this conversation.
Well, hold on. Go ahead.
I'm holding on for a hero to the end of the night.
You missed one thing, Tyler. You missed a big thing here, man. As the movie started, like there's a staircase between you and I. But when the movie started, and I saw who was driving the car and was Savina's dad, I immediately got up and wanted to smack you and be like, "That's Lionel Luthor! It's Lionel Luthor!"
Not only is John Glover like the father of every villain of DC Comics,
He so is.
Every bald villain of DC Comics.
Well, think he also created Poison Ivy and Bane. Okay.
Yes, he was the Floronic Man.
Yes,
or he
was.
could have been the Floronic Man.
And he was also the Batman the Animated Series, the voice of the Riddler. So
that is something I forget about.
So
I didn't know that for a long time, and I only found that out a handful of months ago, and I'm like, that is freaking amazing.
So the man has been with DC for a while, and I love, if you guys get a chance, one of my favorite podcasts, he's here in Columbus, Comic Book Central. I always talk about them. Great podcast. He did an interview last month with John Glover. Go check out his podcast, Comic Book Central, and listen to him talk with John Glover. It's awesome. Because Glover talked about how he signed on to do Smallville, where he was only supposed to be a handful of episodes in season 1, but they just loved him and kept bringing him back, and then he became a staple character for that series.
Oh, he's fantastic. His all of his scenes with just about anybody, but him and Rosenbaum were just like standout every single time.
Oh yeah. So we open up with John Glover as Thaddeus's father, Thaddeus Savannah, and I would say Savannah, but it's like Savannah. It's whatever.
I'm pretty sure they pronounce it Savannah.
And
it's not Savannah, Georgia.
It's one of those, like, whoever you hear it, just like, here's random fact that Voldemort in the original Harry Potter, like, books, when she wrote it, was supposed to be more along the line of a silent T, like a French pronunciation. But then the first person to narrate the books when they did the vocals or the voice to audio cassette and CD, put the T on
audiobooks,
and it put the T on it and it stuck. So that's the way it was pronounced from then on out. Found that a little interesting.
Yeah.
So the Wizard Shazam we'll just call him the Wizard. The Wizard pulls Savannah to the Rock of
We're
Eternity.
going to see the Wizard, the Wonderful. Sorry.
I mean, that would have been a dope. Why wasn't that referenced? So they pull him, and he goes in there, you know, and basically, in a way, he is marked as the champion for the sins. They recognize that through him, they can be freed. And I wish that the film would have played on the sins a little bit more. And I'll get into that statement a little bit as we get farther down the line. So,
I mean, the connection between them was pretty strong from the beginning, though.
Exactly. You mean
between him and this? Yeah.
Yes.
And you kind of have, you kind of have that religious aspect, if you will. How, he gave in to sin, if you will.
Yes.
And that's what can corrupt you, if you. Sorry, former minister,
No,
former
I mean,
youth minister.
that's exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's exactly it. Like, it was the temptation, and his heart wasn't pure, that he was tempted, and was he gave in a way, and so Shazam sent him back, and then basically, car wreck, father gets hurt, and that sets Thaddeus down a path to rediscover magic. Okay, so then we cut to modern day, and we have Billy, and we get the scene of Billy, like we talked about, tricking the cops, and we find out that Billy, he tricked the cops to use their computer to try to look for his mom. And, we get the backstory about how he was at a affair with his mom, and he got lost and separated, and he's been trying to find her since.
Right. Yeah. The first time I saw that, like, I could, even before I saw the second part, I just suspected like this is a child's memory.
Yes.
Of the events that happened that day. Like from the first moment that it started playing and everything, before I even saw, before they show it again later on from the mother's perspective. Right away I was like, this definitely seems like this is from the child's perspective, how lighthearted and fun it is at the day at the carnival. So.
And I mean, I think that's beautiful. It's beautifully done. Like that we see the scene from Billy's point of view as a child. And then,
right.
Like you said later on,
I like his.
I like two things about that. I like that she gave him a compass. So and said that when you get lost, or this is how you will always find your way. I like that little touch, and I also really liked the kind of almost Easter egg-ish of that. I want a tiger. He wanted a tiger. And as I assume, that's probably going to play in later, and probably the sequel. But I really like those little touches there,
okay. So,
and
just you got me excited to talk about something.
Hey man, I'm always excited.
No,
we're
right.
always going to bounce back and forth. We're going to come back to where we are, but we're going to bounce all over the place. We always do.
And that was the first indication, because jumping back to that Jeff Johns script, Tawny is the tiger that's in the zoo, and Billy has a connection with her. He sees a picture of his parents at the zoo with Tawny, and so in that book, there's a scene where he shares the lightning and activates basically his magical animal avatar, which is Tawny. The type.
Yes.
And so, like what you said, Brian, I think that's something big that's not in this film that I think should appear in a sequel, because the tiger is hinted at not only at the carnival several times. Jumping ahead later on, when he sees a little girl hiding with her father, and he hands her a stuffed tiger to protect her.
Yes.
The high school mascot's the tiger. It's on the back of Billy's book bag. Mm-hmm. And the tiger's even on his costume.
Yeah, it's on the clasps for the cape, right on the top of his chest. He's got two little tiger heads on the gold medallions there. Also, they hint at the wildlands, the anthropomorphic animals in the scene where they open the doors, and there's the alligators in suits sitting around a table.
Yes, you're right.
That run at Eugene.
That was something else I missed a little bit because Solomon jumped in my lap. He was a little scared at that moment. So
hey man, they came to the door. It was terrifying. I'm with them.
So exactly, you are absolutely correct, and I think it was a perfect aspect of the mythology to hold off on, but hint and play around with it enough that we understand that you're acknowledging this in a roundabout way for us fans, but you're gonna reveal it more in a sequel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got this movie. You've got the magic. You've got the 7 deadly sins. You have the wizard. You have all this stuff. And I mean, that makes it pretty large. And then you throw in the little Easter eggs like the anthropomorphic alligators, the hint at possible other dimensions or other worlds. And then, I mean, then what you get with a post-credit scene, like they give you a spot where it's like, this can only get like weirder from here.
I say bring on the weirdness.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. I just mean like they left the door open. They've got someplace to go.
Literally and figuratively. There was a lot of doors in the Rock of Eternity.
Yes, there was. And I think the magic aspect is barely touched on, but there is so much more to explore in future films of what exactly. They always say he's from magic, and they talk about making spells, but you never really get to see Shazam perform magic. So I think, that's something great to open up, because the whole point of this was it was magic returning to the world. Magic had been locked away and put away, and the wizard, when we get our history lesson from the wizard, we get a quick story of Black Adam, and how Black Adam had released the 7 deadly sins. And I'll be honest, I'm glad that Black Adam wasn't in this movie. I think he's the villain because he's the reverse of, so much like the hero, that it's better, I think, to hold him off for the sequel because he can bring a different dynamic to it, especially if they stay more with the Black Adam origin from the New 52.
Right. Well, especially when the common, such a common trope for superhero movies, especially the origin story, is the villain is the antithesis of the hero. So it's like always the mirror image is the first person they face off against. So
exactly.
They break the trend by bringing Savannah and the 7 deadly sins in this movie for sure.
And I mean, just thinking about Wonder Woman, I think. Well, just thinking about DC movies in general recently, Man of Steel kind of fell into it with Zod, and then Wonder Woman broke it, because she wasn't fighting him; she was fighting a god. Like Aquaman kind of fell into it with Orm, but you had Black Manta in there, who's different, and here we are with Shazam. Building it up because it'd be, that's always one thing.
Well, you got to give it. I mean, I give it to DC. They've got some spectacular solo films with Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam.
I mean, I agree. And,
absolutely.
And Marvel. I mean, this isn't hate on Marvel, but think about it: Iron Man, Ironmonger, Ant-Man, Wasp, or not Wasp, Yellow Jacket.
Yellow Jacket.
Okay.
Yeah. Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Captain America and the Red Skull too. They're both from the Super Soldier Serum.
Yep.
The Hulk,
well, they did it twice.
Abomination.
They did it twice.
The Hulk, the Abomination, Golden Jaguar, the Black Panther.
Well, I mean, a lot of that that comes from the comics. So
I know it does.
What are you gonna do?
But in the same sense, like that's what you're choosing to tell as your first story, like you just said about your origin story, your origin movie, and you're pulling the opposites. I mean, every time it just kind of gets a little stale. So.
Well, guys, I think that if they would have had The Rock in this movie as Black Adam, that I think that it would have. I don't think it would have. I think it would have took some away from the movie, to be honest with you, because The Rock is this big movie star now. They brought him into the Furious franchise, and he tends to play the same guy every movie. As much as I do like The Rock, but if he was in this movie, I think that it would have been all about The Rock, and the marketing would have went more to The Rock, and instead of. Like, I just have to say, one thing I loved about this movie is the marketing. Like, my name, my name is Eminem song. Just Zachary Levi just having these posters, drinking a slushie, and just being a kid and showing that kid aspect. If we would have put The Rock into that, I think that it would have took away. It would have took away what they were doing here. Not only would the budget been more to pay The Rock, but it would have took away the magic that was in this movie, pun intended, if he was in it.
No, I totally
agree.
I totally agree, because this movie took its time to give us time to play with Billy. It let Billy and Freddy play around, have fun. It didn't rush the humor. It didn't, like, we had this story of our hero going on while Savannah had his thing going on, and then they came together. Like, we got to learn with our hero. We got to have fun with as he discovered his powers and dealt with, his life. And
right. Plus,
we had to take our time with our hero.
Right.
I mean, and there's times where I'm having such a good time with Freddie and Billy that I don't really care that nothing's happening. Like, I don't care that there's no fun.
And it even gives you, time with Savannah. I mean, even though it's a portion of time when he was a kid, it gives you time to see, like, how he is connected to the sins from such a young age, how, being told he wouldn't be good enough helped push him down that road, along with his father and brother pushing him down that road. And then so by the time you come to him being an adult, like if they would have done, say open with the villain and it was The Rock, I mean, the first 30 minutes of the movie would have been about Black Adam and the history of Black Adam. Whereas, you spend 5 minutes in the opening of this movie, everything that you need to know, that Savannah from a young age is connected to the sins, that, he's a product of his environment, and then, you go from there.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, having Black Adam in the sequel and saving that story is like the Wizard's mistake coming back to haunt him, and now Billy has to take care of it. It also gives a chance. We've got to grow with Billy, and now we have this other character that has a thick story that ties to Billy, so it gives us a chance now to learn this character instead of trying to learn two characters at once. I always look at the Dark Knight trilogy in the sense of the first film was very much Batman's movie.
I was just thinking that.
It's Bruce's journey. When we get to the next film, it's now shared with the villains because we've told Batman's story. So now let's tell more about the villains in the world that he has. So, if you do Shazam 2 and you have Black Adam, you now can tell Black Adam's story and how he connects with Billy, because we've already got the chance to learn of Billy. Now, Billy,
right? You'll be able to open up the next one
with the flashback of Kahndaq.
in Kahndaq and him wreaking havoc and becoming the villain then, and then just boom, flash forward and you've got Billy in school. go from death and destruction to Billy in class.
Now, Billy in school. We'll jump back. Did you catch what what school Billy went to?
Fawcett High.
Fawcett High. I thought that was
Fawcett High, that sounds familiar.
Fawcett Central? Fawcett High? Which one was it? I know it was Fawcett.
Yep. So, continuing to pay homage to the
There was
original.
a Fawcett there.
Because in the original comics, it was published by Fawcett Comics. And then that was acquired by DC. And, he lived in Fawcett City. Mm-hmm. And then, what do you call it? Now, it's Philadelphia, PA. And so it's cool. We still have that Fawcett connection. Now, let's get into this part. We've been talking. We haven't got here. Billy gets sent to a foster home. His kind of latch disc effort. And this is where we meet the foster. This is where Freddie comes in. We get to meet Freddie Freeman, Billy's new foster brother, who's at the same age and completely in love with superheroes. And this is where we actually really get the connection of where this fits into the DC universe, with the fact that we see the Black Zero news article. We see the Superman Returns. Not Superman Returns movie, but Superman's Back Alive newspaper.
Superman Lives.
We have, he has the T-shirt on of every other character in the DC's universe with the logos that correspond with those those versions. He has the Batarang that is the Affleck style Batarang. So we're getting to experience this kind of world that we've been shown in these other films, but from the people on the outside. And Freddie is just immersed in it.
As I was watching it, I was like, you know what, Tyler? Freddie's us.
Yes,
Freddie's us geeks.
Exactly. Freddie is
and that's
us.
why I love Freddie so much.
Oh man, dude, Freddie has probably one of the best scenes. It's the most heartbreaking scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
What the heck? Skip ahead. So Freddie.
We're jumping all around. That's all we do.
So, Freddie and Billy are buds, and eventually Billy becomes cocky and dickish because he thinks he's better because he has these powers. And Billy says to Freddie, "You wish it was yours." And Freddie's like, yes, I do. Because Freddie's whole thing is he feels like he is hurting. He wants to be loved. He wants friends. He wants people to notice him and stop. And now, the thing that he wants the most, Billy gets. And with that, with that right there, I would have liked some sort of battle with that each one of the foster kids dealt with one of the sins. Like Freddie's was envy. Maybe I'd have to think about it more, but so that when it comes to the final third act, it's like they have dealt with a sin and they have to overcome it. A sin.
Well, you speak about Freddie being envy though, but I think the reason that envy sticks with Savannah in the end, why Shazam has to coax it out of him, which I think is the portrayal of the wisdom of Solomon, knowing about all of the sins, because they certainly downplay that with his childlike nature. But I certainly think that was the wisdom of Solomon on display. I think the reason that round with Savannah was because envy goes with Savannah. Savannah is envious that he isn't the champion.
Oh no, I totally agree. I mean, we could make it work both ways. I'm just saying, I would have liked, Pedro. Maybe he dealt with gluttony, in the sense he was the big guy, but yet at the same time he was trying to work out and lose weight. But you know what I'm saying? We could work it in so that each one of the foster kids had to face their own issue.
Mm-hmm.
So Billy's in the foster home with Freddie. They're buds. Billy gets the power defending Freddie. that's one of my favorite. It was all in the trailers, but still one of my favorite scenes when the bullies are picking on Freddy, and they start saying some really crappy stuff to him, and the rest of the family kind of tries, but Billy's like, screw this, and just like belts him in the face.
Right. Well, man, they hit him with a truck.
What the heck, man? Right?
Like, I don't care. Like, I'd have done the same thing. I was surprised other kids didn't do the same thing. Like, one, you're beating up on a disabled kid. Two, you hit him with a damn truck instead of just picking on him and doing the crap that they're doing. Like, you hit him with a truck. Like seriously, like that. Yeah, those kids would have gotten their asses jumped.
Yep.
And I mean,
no doubt about it.
I loved it. Just Billy's just not taking the crap.
So, I have to add something here. Why do you guys think that David Sandberg didn't add their father as a character in here? Because in the comic version of the New 52, the dad was a nice sized part of it. But do you feel like they didn't need it?
No, I think it's either on the cutting room floor or it was taken out in rewrites. I'm thinking maybe he was in there in early drafts, and then just to make room for other stuff, he was whittled, or it's on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, he might have been kind of. I think possibly during rewrites. Yeah, he probably could have been in there, but then they're like, well, we also have Savannah and his dad and his brother, like two evil dads. Like,
where do we?
There's only room for one.
Evil dads. My two evil dads.
That's a sitcom for you.
So
it would work.
So Freddy gets transported to the Rock of Eternity and, meets the wizard. And he gets the powers.
And then the wizard says, "You're a wizard, Billy." And he looks like Hagrid from Harry Potter. Absolutely.
A what? I'm a what?
Well, when he enters the Rock of Eternity, we get a second shot of a little
glass dome.
A little glass dome, like a small animal cage type thing. And it's broken open in the second viewing. The first time you get a caterpillar in there, and then the second time it's broken open and the caterpillar's gone.
And
as soon as I saw, I was like, and they focused on the caterpillar the first time at the very beginning, I was like, that's familiar. And then,
we've been watching comic book movies enough to know that there's always a purpose for these little things.
Yes. I mean, yes. I mean, so, Billy gets the powers, and then we get the great scene where he shows up, with Freddy, like, "It's me, Billy." And this is the only time he wears the hood. That's one thing I think about later. Like, I really like the Shazam costume. I wish he would have wore the hood more. And I'm not a fan of the boots. I don't know what it is. The boots work, but I'm just not a huge fan of them.
What do you have against boots, man?
I don't know.
What do you have against boots, man?
Hey,
Superman wears boots.
I'm picky about costuming. You know what I'm saying? Like, Superman Returns, I hate the boots. Like, they're bulky, they're rubbery.
I hate the belt.
I like the belt. That's pretty much one thing I like on that costume. Dean Cain's boots were a different tone of red. It threw me. But I'm just talking about costuming. Like, the boots, they work, but I'm just not a huge fan of them. But the rest of the costume I was fine with.
Dude, the Shazam costume looks great. That lightning bolt, man.
Oh no,
come on, man. That's your $80 million budget right there just on that lightning bolt. Everybody else worked for free. No,
no. I will love there's the training sequences and how Billy discovers his powers, the stuff that Freddy pulls on him, like the fireproof test.
Secret fireproof test.
Didn't he have it? He had his teleportation test at first, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then he lit the box on fire.
I love when they're in the grocery store. We don't get this part in the trailer, where they shoot him, and he's like, I'm bulletproof. And he's like, shoot him in the face. He's like, yeah, come on, shoot me in the face.
How we know
that was suit? Yeah, that was both of my kids' favorite part. Like, how do we know it's not the suit that's bulletproof? Shoot him in the face. Yeah, shoot me in the face. What? Shoot me in the face? Boom, boom, boom. It kind of tickles. You're dead.
then I love Zachary. I love Zachary's face change in that, where he's just like, it tickles, and then he just immediately switches the face to the robbers. You're dead.
See, his casting, when they announced his casting, everybody's like, what? But no. But the thing is, so good. Physical, like, you can work out and get into shape. Okay, and there's tricks here and there, but the over amount of excited joy of like a child and just the funness that he brings out is everything that Shazam needs to be.
Oh yeah, the first time they started doing the testing before the official testing, when he first comes out and he's it's Billy, and he drops a bullet in the vent or in the storm drain, and he's like, believe you can fly, and did you believe, and try invisibility, and then I'm invisible. You
can't see me. He's like, and the people down the alley are like,
nice outfit.
I mean, it's just that's what makes it. That's what
the lightning. It was staring us right in the face, literally.
And he's just as he's doing this movie and as he's playing Shazam, you can see how he's having so much fun and how he's loving this character. And like, yeah, he's acting, but you can legitimately see how much fun he was really having. And that was important for me. That made me enjoy it even more, that this guy is just, he's loving what he's doing. And,
yes.
And you can tell.
And that's, that's a big point of selling these characters. And I mean, I just love it. The movie is fun. That's the word just thrown on. It's a good time. It's a, wish fulfillment of a child. And so Billy and Freddie, they have their good times together, and then they have their falling out. And the falling out kind of takes place when Billy is goofing. He's starting to skip school, and he decides to skip and not take Freddie with him. And Billy's on the top of the art museum there in Philly, where Rocky runs the step, shooting lightning to Eye of the Tiger, which was amazing.
I love that.
Which is, if you think about it, another tiger reference.
Yeah,
it's another tiger reference.
Lighting from my hands.
And I like that he causes the accident of the bus that then he has to save, and Freddie calls him out on it. And I love that Shazam is so much of a hero that's like in the spotlight. He's not flying off. He's not hiding in the shadows. Like, people are seeing him. And he's
he did a news interview. He did a news interview. I mean, like, that's straight out of the comics and like Justice League Unlimited, doing news interviews and talking to the press.
Like, he might have caused the accident, but he caught it.
And I mean, that's a great lesson to learn. And then, I mean, right then is when Savannah shows up and just whips him. That's your turning point, where Billy actually he says Shazam and gets scared because of what Savannah does to him.
Yeah, he's beating him up, and he's chasing him through the mall, where you get the big scene on the well, the glimpse at the big scene on the walking keyboard, and you have the Batman toy.
I'm Batman.
Get him, Batman.
I'm Batman. That was great.
I would have liked one line about the merchandising money, like, goes to charity. Like in the Justice League cartoons and stuff, there's lines about all the T-shirts and toys and memorabilia that's made of the heroes, that money goes to charities. They don't make money off of it.
Oh,
that would have been cool.
You know, just like if there had been someone like, man, who gets all this Batman money? You know, just said like, oh.
Well, I mean, you know, merchandising is actually a part of the continuity as it is. I mean, the beginning of Suicide Squad, a dude is selling Superman shirts. Remember Superman?
Exactly. So I mean,
yeah, right when Waller walks in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have.
So of course the public's going to try and make money off of you know, their personas.
Exactly. That's why you have official licensed merchandise where the money goes to help the poor. Solo, you okay?
Yeah. Well, and also in just real life, you know, that's one thing that Warner Brothers gets huge criticism for, is that when they make these movies, they don't care so much about making the movies and continuity and just making a good movie. They care more about the toys and the marketing.
This isn't Batman and Robin.
So I'm sorry.
They either no, you're right. They'll swing either way. Because Batman and Robin was completely into the toys, and then when they did Batman Begins, they were like, "No, we're not going to do anything with toys." And then they like had to make a couple, and they're like, because the whole Dark Knight trilogy was not very toyetic. Like there wasn't a lot of toys for those films.
But I felt in this movie, the way they marketed it was just so well done, and they really let, you know, David Sandberg and the whole cast just really, the cast was perfect, and they just really showed, you know, that they really actually cared about making something good this time.
I will say, so as we're going through this, Billy, you know, he's scared. He goes back to the foster home. We find out that Billy kept a journal with the names that he remembered of his mother, where he was trying to hunt down his mom. And Pedro, and I cannot remember the other foster kid's name. Eugene. They figure it out. They figure it out, and where she is. And I will say, if there's one thing I would have liked to have done a little different in this film, is I would have liked a little bit more with Billy and the foster kids. You know, we see him make a connection with Mary. We see him make a connection with Darla, the youngest foster girl. And I would have liked just a little bit more with the others. But it's okay. You know, maybe there's some cutting room floor stuff. We don't know.
Well, we saw that part with Pedro getting all Fs or getting an F on that test, and then like we don't even go into it. They just like, I kind of wanted them to go into it a little bit. Like, this kid's struggling, you know, like he's not talking, he's not, you know, he's struggling in school, and he's just struggling talking to people, and then they just use that as him finding the journal. But I wanted more of this kid. You know, like I grew up a big kid, and I was silent at times. I wanted more of that, and I also want them to have the scene in the comic. Darla's like, you know, hey, big brother, and maybe me being deaf, maybe I missed this scene, maybe the dialogue did happen, but in the comic, you know, he screams at her, you know, I'm not your brother, and we're not a family, and she just bursts out in tears and runs away. And Mary goes to Billy and says, you know, she was just left here. She was just abandoned here. We are her family.
Yeah, well, certainly in the New 52 comic, Billy is very much a jerk.
Yes.
They went to the extreme with that, and I mean that kind of makes it that person kind of makes it hard to believe that he's like the pure of heart character who could become the champion. In the movie, they certainly, you know, he's not a jerk. He's not mean to them. But he definitely thinks more about himself than he does other people. But, you know, getting to the, I'm not your brother and we're not a family. When they go into the school, she gives him a hug, and she says, "Have a good day, big brother." And, he says, "You don't have to hug me all the time. I'm not really your brother." But he didn't say it in like a jerk, kind of way. He didn't say it like in the book where he's like written and drawn like he's yelling and he's angry about it.
See, it works for me in the book because the book's a different interpretation, and when you're reading comics, sometimes like you have these different volumes or different stories to pull from, but when you go to the film, that kind of becomes this definitive version for a lot of people to see and be exposed to.
Right.
So by having him
the audience is much wider.
So having him more of like the traditional Billy really works to the advantage of the film.
Well, I certainly think that they made a good middle ground between the New 52 and the original, because the original Billy was just like a gee golly, mister, like like this almost cartoon version of this good as all get out kid, and the New 52, he was a plain jerk, like in the book, he kind of turned, which kind of gives a character's the hero's journey type thing for his Billy type story for Billy as a kid, so they give him somewhere to go, not just being this good kid, so they did do a middle ground, a very good middle ground for the movie.
And so with that, I will say that there was a twist in this film that I didn't see coming that I really liked. And that's when we find out that Billy's mom's alive.
Before we go right into that, the one thing I was going to say a while back when we first brought up that he was looking for his mom, and he looked in the police computer, like they only show the one name, Rachel Batson. He's just looking for any female named Batson. They say that he found like 70 some females with the last name Batson. Mm-hmm. So like he doesn't even know his mother's first name. All he is looking for female Batson to try and find his mother. Like Rachel is just a random first name of a female Batson that he's looking for. So
yeah, I think the social worker even said like we know you're looking for one between like age 30 to 40 something, and yeah, I don't know how he got the license numbers. I mean, I'm not police, but he had like a license. When in the beginning of the movie, when he steals the cop car, he puts in that license plate number to get her address. But they didn't really elaborate how he even got that plate to be able to find that address. Or maybe was he just typing in the names?
Well, I mean, he had tons of information. So like, I mean, he had to get all of these people piece by piece, whether, he got names out of a phone book, names, phone numbers, addresses, like.
What is that thing you speak of?
Okay. Maybe he Googled it.
Okay.
You say phone book? You say phone book?
I would say all of us here know what a phone book is. Maybe not some of the younger people listening, but all of us here know what a phone book is.
What? What? Billy wants to work for radio broadcasting? What?
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, in the comics, the thing was, both his parents were dead. And I think that this lends so much more to the story they're telling. And I was, like we alluded to earlier, so he finds his mom and he goes to her, and we learn that she was 17 when she had him. And basically we re-see that opening scene, but from her perspective. And I mean, it's heartbreaking. Like, as a parent, I just want to be like, you piece of crap human being. Like, how dare you? Because we found out she saw her son with the police and thought he'll have a better life being taken and put in the system than he would with me.
Right. She abandoned him. But the gut punch was when he handed her the compass. The last thing that she gave him, and she had no idea what it was.
She had no idea what it was. And to me, that is the most pivotal scene, because it's the scene of Billy realizing the family that he imagined that he could have doesn't exist, and he has a chance for a real family in front of him. And that's why the scene that follows it is the one that's in the trailers where it's Billy running off to save his new family. And that's when he's on the rooftop and he jumps and yells Shazam. Is because
how cool was that scene? Seriously.
I mean, it's him embracing Shazam, you know, the power, and you know, him embracing that I have to go save my family, because you know that's him putting to bed the family he thought he could have, because he leaves the compass with her and says, "You need this more than I do," and.
Right. Yeah, it's the most amazing scene from the marketing. So no matter how many times you see it, it's still awesome. But then when you see it in the context of him leaving his mother to go back to his real family, you know, and to save his real family, like, it's so much more powerful.
Absolutely. And the fact that like, you know, she says, I saw you with the police officer. I figured they would take better care of you. Then it goes off the flashback, and you can see her kind of looking him up and down, and then the camera cuts to this, like, the side angle of them standing and looking at each other, and then she's like, she's like, "You're looking good. You know, you're looking fed." So you can kind of see that this is where she's like, "Yeah, I made the right choice. He's okay. You know, I'm you know, he'll be fine." And there's no hesitation in her voice, like, "I want you back."
Yeah, she still wants nothing to do with him.
Like, I made a mistake, and you know, that was really emotional for me. You know, just my own personal story, and she just, like, that was a great scene. That was the most powerful scene in that movie. And I'm not a parent, but I can't understand a parent that wouldn't be like any normal parent, like you guys, would be like, "Hey, you know, hey, you're back," you know, and have any excitement. But she had none of that, and that's why that scene was executed so perfectly. And when he goes to save his family and save the day, like, that was just written perfectly.
And it's crazy because they when he finds out how close she's been the whole time.
Oh yeah, Eugene said she was like, what, 2 blocks away from them, or two subway stops or something. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. Ugh.
So basically, we have now the big fight between Savannah, who is there, you know, with the kids, the foster family, and Billy, and we end up getting to, this is our third act kickoff, and we get to the carnival, you know, like we've seen in the trailer. And what's interesting about this, one of my favorite scenes, is when they get there and we have Billy, and it's the scene from the trailer where he's walking and he says Shazam, and it strikes and you see him turn. If you watch in the trailer, or if you watch in the film, when he does it, in the background's the foster kids. But in the trailer, they're not there. In the trailer.
Huh.
So I thought that was neat. And I thought that was a really awesome, just kind of like, oh, okay. But we have Savannah, who releases the sins, and you have on this theme park, and Billy is trying to protect it and fight it, and you know he has the remembrance of when Shazam had basically talked about his brothers and sisters, the Wizarding Council, and sharing the power, and this led to one of like the biggest laughs in the film when Shazam, you know, says, all right, everybody put your hands on the staff and say my name. And they all yell, Billy.
Yeah, you saw it coming.
And he's like, no, say the name that I say to become this guy. And they're like, oh, Shazam.
Yeah, well, he kind of gave them a quick little spiel on like what he was given. Say my name, and this will happen. So he just gives them that, not thinking like, oh wait, like.
And I mean, it was great. It's just how kids would be though. Like they would say it, and
yeah,
and I loved it. But so we get the big like. I'm so happy that. They didn't put this in the marketing. You would only know this if you saw the toys. And sometimes toys can be misleading. We've seen it happen.
Yep.
And we get the Shazam family with all of his foster siblings transformed into their version of a character. And it was awesome, And it was so like beautiful in the sense of like Freddy, getting his wish fulfillment of he has the power. And I will say the one that threw me was Mary, because the actress they got to be the older Mary looks like the younger Mary that I at first was questioning, did she even change?
Yeah, they looked very similar. I did like Freddy's I've studied every fighting style of every superhero. What you got? That is terrifying. He runs off.
And guys, I also love that when they all change, Freddy is the one that's flying, and because he has trouble walking, and he's just flying right away. That was a nice little touch.
Yeah, it seemed like they all have like a specialty with the powers. Like they all share all of the powers, but like each one has
I was wondering that.
Like a specialty, like Freddy, flight was automatically his specialty. Darla, speed was hers, which the woman who played grown-up Darla, she did great. I loved when she saved Santa.
Yes, she really made me feel like that was Darla older.
Yeah, and then the scene with her running up and around on the Ferris wheel saving people.
That was a nice camera angle.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And Pedro had the strength. Okay. Eugene had the lightning manipulation.
What did Mary have, though?
I think Mary... I think, like you were talking about the different things, maybe Mary was more of the wisdom side. Because like each one was kind of like displaying a different
trait. Kind of mama hen, if you will.
Yeah, because, Pedro definitely was the strength. And now, I said this to James, and I'm saying this to really quick kind of Easter egg is the actor that played Pedro, adult, and Freddy, adult, were two actors that were cast in Justice League Mortal. That was going to be Superman and the Flash. Adam Brody, who played older Freddy, was supposed to be the Flash in Justice League Mortal. The 2000, it would have been released in, I think, 2007 film. And DJ Corona was going to be Superman.
I did not know that. I didn't realize that was DJ. I didn't realize
he looked familiar, and then I had to look him up, and I was like, wow. And then, of course, the other callback is Adam Brody was on Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's another. There's two more people from Smallville in a DC film, a current DC film. The show is legendary. But this isn't, we were saying, like, they were all fighting, and I kind of wish they each would have, like, fought off, like, a sin that kind of correlated to them. But, the envy, what you said, makes perfect sense for Savannah. And that's the one that he kept inside of him, because we find out that without at least one of them in him, Savannah has no power. He is using them, and they're using him. And Billy tricks,
which was a nice touch,
Envy out, and Savannah goes fallen. And of course, the Shazam family defeats them and returns the sins to the Rock of Eternity. And what I found interesting too, is so after that, of course, we get a scene of Freddy back at school, and we had a scene earlier where Freddy says that he knew the hero and that he'd come to school and have lunch with him, and Billy doesn't show. And so all the kids pick on Freddy, and no one wants to have lunch with Freddy. He's trying to find somewhere to sit, and then all of the foster kids show, like brothers and sisters, show up. And he's like, you guys don't even have lunch this period. And they say something about reworking schedules or something, that they're going to have lunch together. And I thought that was awesome. Like, just that part in its own.
Yeah.
And then we get the great scene of Billy coming around the corner as Shazam. And, making a big deal and going to sit with Freddy. And then we get probably the most controversial scene of the film.
I know you were happy about it.
I mean, it gave me chills, but at the same time, it was beautifully done.
It was.
I like it. It's one of those I just wish I didn't know the background behind it. And I heard someone say this, and I don't want to take credit for it, but the reason why it works as well as it does is because the way the shot is framed. Because it's Freddy and Shazam sitting at the table, and Freddy has to look up, and the camera doesn't pan. It just stays flat. And what we're talking about is somebody else joins them for lunch. And who joins them?
Who could that be?
Who joins them for lunch? Their great Superman Red.
Superman, the Man of Steel, comes to Fawcett High to have lunch with Freddie Freeman and Shazam.
And I love it because I love if you watch their faces. If you watch Shazam's face as he smiles and points and up, and then Freddy's face of just pure joy and excitement.
Oh yeah, he turns. He's like, oh.
It was perfect.
And then it cuts to the Ramones.
Yeah. I mean, kind of knowing the background of everything, it's one thing, but I still kind of look at it like it's the way it was framed was great. Him kind of just because obviously, Superman is going to take an interest in a superpowered flying individual. There's not been very much luck with other individuals like that. Every time somebody, comes around, they must be investigated. But the fact that just having the quick cameo of the suit showing that Superman is there and Superman is involved because they've been linked for forever. And showing that he's there and cutting the credits the way they do. I mean, I would have been ecstatic if it would have been Henry Cavill, if they would have walked in, just shown the chest, and then they showed the wide shot of the table, and it would have been Cavill, Freeman, and Zachary sitting there. Mm-hmm. I would have been ecstatic, but just to show that Superman is there, Superman is in this continuity, involved with Shazam, and just to have such a quick cut of him is perfect, because if you linger on Superman, it doesn't matter whose movie it is. Mm-hmm. If you linger on Superman, he takes center stage. Yeah. So,
I mean, it was perfectly done. I mean, it's just one of those things. It just hurt because you knew that it wasn't Cavill.
Right. I'm curious if the rumors are true that they shot one with Cavill and they shot one without, with Zachary's stunt double in the suit, just in case, the possibility that things were ironed out and they could roll with the Cavill thing. And I forget, I heard it somewhere, but it'd be awesome if by the time it went to home release, they were it was nailed down and he was going to be, and then home release, it was actually a Cavill cameo.
I mean, but
it
would be amazing.
That happened, but that would be amazing.
See, I've heard that, but then at the same time, I've heard that it's not so much Cavill. It's Warner Brothers on what they want to do with the Superman character. And I feel like I believe that up until the fact that if that was the case, why even have Superman be the cameo in this and why not Aquaman? Because, of course you're going forward with more Aquaman or even Wonder Woman show up.
No, it had to be Superman.
But I mean, it makes the most sense. But if you're, because the biggest thing has been that Warner Brothers has said that they have no plans for Superman, like a no Superman film, him not to appear in anything. So it's not been so much that Henry Cavill doesn't want to do it, is the fact as they have no plans for him. So it doesn't matter if he wants to do it or not. There's nothing for him to do. And then there was, of course, the whole scheduling that he didn't. So it's a kind of a mess that, you can kind of believe which side you want. But I think what would have been there's the second post-credit scene where Freddy and Shazam are holding a fishbowl trying to talk to fish. And I think it would have been funny if they're sitting there and then you just have Momoa come in, like, and he just says, like, guys, seriously? Or something like that, or like, hey, we need you outside, or you're ready to go, or something like that.
That would have been nice.
I think
I'm with you on that.
I think that would have been the more fun cameo, just because the idea is Aquaman just made a bunch of money, and we know for sure that we're going to get an Aquaman 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he's trying to talk to fish, and then if Aquaman was just like, no, like, or if Aquaman like was behind him, like we didn't see it, like you saw the ripples in the water, and the fish like turn and look at him, and they're like, oh my god, we did it. And he's like, and he just kind of laughs behind him or something. I don't know.
Right.
Like, you could have worked something.
That would.
To me, that would have been, but I felt like that second scene was just lifted out of something in the movie. I don't feel like it was filmed.
I think that would have been, I think the Aquaman, like an Aquaman cameo, would have been like, would have been like a stretch. If you did anything besides like have Shazam fly to the coast somewhere, just one, not saying that he can't be inland, obviously, but in the middle of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia for no other reason.
True. I mean, like I said, if he put a line like, hey, we need you, we're ready for you outside or something, and alluding to like him going off with the Justice League or something, I don't know.
Right. So, I mean, honestly, just with the, with the movies, with the timing and the money, I mean, they probably could have done something like, to get Aquaman in there as a cameo kind of, but just with the history of the comic books and the link between the characters, the powers,
I mean,
the attachment,
it totally
the
makes
fanboy
sense.
stuff. It makes sense that it is Superman. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to be anybody else, honestly.
It only makes sense if you look at it in the context of where they're moving these movies, because but you know what I'm saying? It makes sense for the story that it's Superman, but the fact that we're not getting Superman is kind of where I think it falls short. But
so just back to the scene as it is, like, I was giddy as all hell to see Superman come in and boom, like, hell yeah, Superman made an appearance in the movie. It's only afterwards, thinking about it a little bit more and knowing some of the behind the scenes stuff where it's like, man, that's kind of a little here or there. But as a viewer, when I first saw it and thinking about the general public, when they see it, they're going to be like, yeah,
exactly.
Because I know, like, people in my both times I saw it, people clapped when the credits rolled.
And I almost wonder,
they see Superman and then credits and, there's applause.
It almost makes me wonder if they did it as a test back, like, are people still interested in Superman after everything that's gone on? What did you think to the new addition to his costume?
The little bit of red in the little bit of red and gold in the belt.
Well, the gold was already there.
The mustache? You mean the mustache?
The red was.
Oh, never mind.
You know what? The mustache, I think they should have just gone full beard. Like, leave the mustache and give him a beard for his resurrection. Like, he came back clean shaved. Like, nothing happened. Like, they should have just given him a beard. It would have been easier to slap a digital beard on him and made it look better than that horrendous reconstruction of his face.
Yeah.
Like, just give Superman a beard for the rest of the movie. You want to reshoot it? I guarantee so many people would have been happier with the movie if they would. Well, they would have been happier with the movie if they would have given him a beard instead of slap that fake face on him.
Happier, yes.
I totally
Happier, yes.
agree with you. The beard is what would have saved that movie. The beard.
It would have saved an aspect of that movie.
And so, I guess that brings us to this. On a letter grade, where do you rate Shazam? Brian, you go first.
A.
James?
Not A minus, not A plus, A.
I would give it probably an A. I mean, it's my favorites are Man of Steel and
hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that.
Hold it.
Tyler, what letter grade would you give Shazam?
Man, I'm gonna break it and say A minus, just because I feel like, just because I would have done the sins differently. I need to see it again. I've only seen it the one time. I need to see it again, but my impression of during my viewing, because of how the sins were done, kind of made it a little bit negative, just because of my son's reaction.
Well, if they would have done the sins like the comic, because that's one thing I put in my notes here. If they would have put the sins kind of like they did in the comics, where greed has like this big money bag and lust is, a beautiful type woman, do you think that would have been better?
I think you could have done it where they came out as the monsters and then turned into how everyone perceived them. So they had more of the allure, and but they were actually monstrous. It could have been something different. But yeah, I mean, just something like, because just seeing Solomon's reaction and stuff really, it messed up a little bit of my experience with it. Now,
I'm just glad that Solomon didn't see them, the creature bite the dude's head off.
Exactly, and see that's
that board.
And that's
yeah,
what I'm
that
saying.
boardroom scene, man.
And that's where I get my negative from, is because of that. Now, this is the part.
It was besides the head being bitten off. It was very. Besides the head being bitten off, it was tastefully done because the rest of it is shown through the fog glass from the outside,
and that's
where the rest of the boardroom is killed. But the one time when they show the head being bitten off, and even him throwing his brother out of the window, I mean, that was intense stuff. But when the sin bites the guy's head right off, that is horror movie, right on, straight up. And then and then they go to the outside and everybody's screaming and being slapped up against the glass and glass cracking and stuff like that. But it's not like the glass got any blood spray or anything like that on it. So there's just a lot of screaming and, people being mauled behind the glass where you can't see.
And so now my last question before we wrap this up, because we're running a little long. We don't have to go into a deep conversation about it. Quickly, rank your DC films, DC/DCEU, even though that's not the official title, the DCEU, order of your personal favorites. Go.
Well, mine is Man of Steel and BVS. And honestly, 3, 4, and 5 on any given day between Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman could switch, but I would probably have to go with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman for sure, I think would have to be 3, even by a marginal point. But 4 and 5 is tougher between Aquaman and Shazam. But then, I'd say Aquaman and Shazam are pretty close to a tie for me. Maybe Shazam over Aquaman, but not by much. And then Suicide Squad and Justice League.
Okay, so I'm very similar to you. We're going to let Brian go last because he's our guest. Mine is Man of Steel is number 1. BVS is number 2. Aquaman takes number 3 because Wonder Woman is great to that third act. That third act fight with her and the way they did Ares, and that just became one giant CG, just a mess, kind of really makes me have a distaste, for that. Like, I just feel like it could have been better.
Right. Well, that movie for that single fight, mm-hmm. The entire movie elevates it over that one single fight. But, it is the culmination, but
that single fight is what barely tips it below Aquaman, because in Aquaman I love that we have this CG battle, but I can tell what's going on, and it's like a Star Wars battle underwater, where you have these factions fighting, and then you have Orm versus Arthur, and there's a lot of weight to that battle and where it ends and how it ends. And like I said, and I'm with you where it's medial. My number 5 is Shazam, and I say that for right now because I've only seen it the one time, and I never really want to rank movies that I've seen them multiple times, because I feel like the first time you see it, you get a lot out of it, or you're like completely like, oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing ever, and either you see it again and you're like, oh my gosh, there's stuff that was bad, or you watch it again and you have more appreciation and love for it. So I'm with you at the 3, 4, and 5. My number 6 is Justice League, because it's more of a coherent story compared to Suicide Squad, which is number 7, where that first half of that movie is just straight up montage, and then we get to like a very dull, drug out second half of the movie where it doesn't make sense and the villain makes no sense, and then it ends. So that's my ranking. And now, Brian, drop it.
All right. So before I give my brief list and reasonings, I have to say that Shazam is number 1 as my favorite. Because I am a comedian. I enjoy laughter. I enjoy having fun. And sometimes we just need superhero movies that make us laugh, smile, and feel like a kid again. So it kind of made me have those feelings of, when I would watch Christopher Reeve's Superman. As an adult, it made me feel like a kid again. So Shazam is my number 1. Also because I'm a geek through and through, and my wife's a bit of a geek here and there, but my wife is not a big superhero fan. When I take her to a movie, she does it because it's a binding part of our marriage contract. So she goes to these movies, because she loves me, and she likes Captain America, she likes Spider-Man, all that stuff. But this is the first movie that she absolutely loved. Loved it, and couldn't talk enough about how much she loved it. And she said, I don't know much about superheroes, and I don't know much about powers. And as I'm watching this, Shazam doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't know anything about his powers. So I kind of felt like I related to that. And he doesn't know what he's doing, and I don't know what I'm doing when I'm with you. And I felt like like you're like Freddie, you know all this superhero stuff and you're a geek, and maybe I'm more like Billy because I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and if I got those powers, that's what it would be like with us, and that just warmed my heart to have my wife say she loved a superhero movie. So maybe that's what jumps it up, and I don't know. But I did watch it twice, and I absolutely loved it. Now, number 2, I have not watched twice, but because I love this character so much, that's probably why it's number 2. But my number 2 is Aquaman. Because I really enjoy James Wan as a director, and I felt that he handled this so well. He went into it like, if I'm only going to do one movie, this is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go all out. And it made up for what Green Lantern was. Like Green Lantern being my favorite DC character and hero. Just seeing Aquaman be done so well. It's not my number 1 only because it was Jason Momoa as Aquaman more than it was an Aquaman movie to me. But I still need to see it twice. 3 is Wonder Woman, because I didn't really think that Gal Gadot, or that's how you say her name, would deliver as well as she did, and she really did. And maybe it was so well done because it pretty much kind of was Captain America, the first Avenger, just in women form. But it had a lot of heart, and it was done very well. And I think women really need to be presented in movies, and women heroes and need to be presented more in a better way than Captain Marvel was. But that's another story. But it was done so well, and girls need a hero. Number 4 is Man of Steel, because the more I watch it, the more I end up liking it more. Because when I first saw it, I did not like it. I didn't like it at all. Krypton to me is a nice planet, and I just love Christopher Reeve so much. But the more I've watched it, I've liked it more. And the story was good, and Michael Shannon was a good Zod. Number 5 for me is Batman versus Superman. I would have ranked it higher than Man of Steel because I love Batman so much. But I just can't go over Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I can't do it. It's the worst part of the movie. The movie's a mess unless you watch the extended cut. It just so much doesn't make sense, and I can't get over the "why did you say that name?" I can't do it. Number 6 for me is Suicide Squad, because it has a little bit more fun in it sometimes than Justice League. But I knew it'd be a disappointment, and I went into it knowing I was going to be disappointed, so that's why it's ranked higher. But what they did to the Joker, the greatest villain of all time, it's just unforgivable. And number 7, Justice League, is the worst in my opinion, because I went with such high hopes that they would somehow pull this off, even though they didn't follow the Marvel formula, and it was just pure trash. And that movie, I need to burn a copy of it, and that's it.
And you know what? My thing is with that is, like, you didn't have to follow the Marvel formula to make it work, but you just had to have a story that worked.
Right, exactly.
And the problem
could have worked.
I think the thing that, I mean, a great story would have helped, but I think the thing that was part of the biggest detriment to Justice League was people didn't have any investment beyond the Trinity. The rest of the other 3 characters, the general public didn't have an investment in the characters, and then you get so little character development in that. Suicide Squad is a more character piece than Justice League is.
Yep.
Yes, which is why I rank it just a little higher.
And
that's why it's ranked a little higher for me.
And my thing is, originally it was supposed to be more of a seven,
and that's the only reason.
A 7 Samurai kind of feel, where Batman was supposed to gather the individuals. But once again, like, it's so hard because the Justice League we got is not what was shot. It's what was edited and reshot and just made into something that worked.
Yep.
So it's very hard to talk about knowing that, there was a version that was made that was even more cohesive and longer and more character development for these characters. But that's where we're going to put a pin in it and wrap it up. So, Bryan, thank you for being part of the chat today. And
thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to my rambling.
You are welcome. And until next time,
Shazam!
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Krypton Report. You can also email us at kryptonreportpod@gmail.com. If you get a chance to go over to iTunes, please leave us a review to help us get better.
If you're an Amazon shopper, just remember you can go to southgatemediagroup.com. There's a portal, log into Amazon, and you'll shop into your account just regular, but it also helps keep all the podcasts on and helps keep Southgate running. Remember, look up in the sky.